My friend Keith has an uncle with dementia. Long story short, his uncle usually lives with Keith's grandma, but she was in Florida with her church group for the week. Keith was going on a business trip, so while he was gone, he hired me to house sit. This included watching after and taking care of his uncle. I'll call him Uncle Mick. Keith would only be gone for 2 days. On the first day of my house sitting, I mostly hung out in the backyard reading and tanning, or in the living room watching TV. I cooked twice, each time making extra food for Uncle Mick, but I never saw him come out of his room upstairs. I went up to knock on his door lightly and tell him I made food. I heard a grunting noise on the other side of the door. I assumed that was his way of acknowledging me. Oddly enough, I never actually met his uncle. We weren't introduced when Keith hired me for this little job. Uncle Mick was fully aware of my being there. At least that's what Keith said. He never left his room to eat while I was in the living room, so I went up to the spare room for the night. I left the door cracked open so I could listen. I eventually heard a door down the hall opening and unsettlingly quick and heavy footsteps moving down the hall and down the stairs. Seconds later, I heard the same footsteps rush back up the stairs, and the door slammed shut. It was honestly a little unnerving. It's hard to explain the intensity of his footsteps, like he was avoiding me or something. The next day was pretty similar to the first. I made 2 meals and left the food on the counter for Uncle Mick. Both times, when I was laying in the backyard again, I came back in to see the plate was empty. I guessed he was really avoiding me. I went back out to tan some more, and when I thought about it, I looked up to the bedroom Mick was staying in. There he was, looking at me through the window. I think when he noticed me, he ducked down. I felt so uncomfortable that I folded up the blanket and went back inside and up to the spare bedroom. It was okay. One more night of this, and I'd be home. I made dinner that night and left him another plate. As I walked up to the spare bedroom, I noticed his bedroom door was open now. The first time I'd seen that. Maybe he was becoming less shy. I went to brush my teeth and go to my room for the rest of the night to give him his space. I was having a rough time sleeping, though. I just wasn't tired at all. While laying there in the dark, I heard a short creaking sound coming from inside the room, even over the noise of the fan next to me. I sat up and looked around, still able to slightly see in the dark room. I didn't see anything. More specifically, I didn't see Uncle Mick. I was getting paranoid, honestly. Why was I becoming so creeped out by him? I lay back down on my side, facing the wall next to the bed. I ignored the little sounds I thought I was hearing in my head for the most part, but when I heard a very faint groan, I sat up and turned off the fan to listen. I heard breathing. I turned to the far right side of the room by the desk, and there he was, sitting on the desk chair turned to me. I screamed in fear, and he came up to me, going, "Shh," and covered my mouth with his hand. In the moment, I thought he was trying to suffocate me, so I pushed him off of me and ran to the nearest bathroom to lock the door. I listened as I heard his manic footsteps rush back to his room and slam the door. My heart was pounding inside my chest. I called Keith and told him about it. He sounded like he wasn't even that shocked. That's the scary thing. He told me it's best I sleep in the bathroom with the door locked, and when he said that, it told me that Uncle Mick is potentially dangerous, which scared me even more. I slept maybe 3 hours max that night on the bathroom floor, and in the morning I quickly packed my backpack and waited out in the backyard for Keith to return. He paid me extra for what I had to deal with. I suggested that he get his uncle some serious help, because I think he has more than dementia. I still don't know what his intentions were that night. The winding road leading to Blackwood Manor was shrouded in darkness, the dense fog clinging to the trees like a spectral veil. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tightly as she navigated through the thick mist, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She had heard the rumors about the old mansion, the whispered tales of hauntings and restless spirits that called it home. But Sarah was undeterred. She had always been drawn to the supernatural, and she was determined to uncover the truth behind the legend of Blackwood Manor. As she rounded the final bend in the road, the mansion came into view, its looming silhouette rising up from the mist like a ghostly apparition. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she took in the sight of the imposing structure, its crumbling facade hinting at the centuries of secrets it held within its walls. Parking her car at the foot of the grand staircase, Sarah gathered her courage and stepped out into the cool night air. The sound of her footsteps echoed through the empty courtyard as she made her way towards the front entrance, the heavy wooden doors looming ominously before her. With a trembling hand, Sarah pushed open the door and stepped into the darkness beyond. The air was thick with dust and decay, and the faint scent of mildew hung heavy in the air. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, Sarah found herself standing in the grand foyer of Blackwood Manor, its once grandeur now faded and worn with age. Ignoring the chill that ran down her spine, Sarah pressed forward, her curiosity driving her deeper into the heart of the mansion. Room by room, she explored the sprawling estate, each shadowy corridor revealing more secrets than the last. But it wasn't until Sarah reached the attic that she felt the first stirrings of fear. The air was colder here, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides, suffocating her with its oppressive weight. Yet still, she pressed forward, her flashlight cutting through the gloom as she searched for clues to the mansion's dark past. As she rummaged through the dusty artifacts that littered the attic floor, Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she stumbled upon an old journal, its pages yellowed with age and bound in cracked leather. With trembling hands, she opened the journal and began to read, the words on the page sending a chill down her spine. The journal belonged to a woman named Eleanor Blackwood, the last descendant of the family who had once called the mansion home. In its pages, Eleanor chronicled the tragic events that had befallen her family, the mysterious disappearances and unexplained deaths that had plagued them for generations. But it was the final entry in the journal that sent Sarah's blood running cold. In it, Eleanor spoke of a malevolent presence that lurked within the walls of Blackwood Manor, a dark entity that fed on the fear of the living and sought to claim their souls for its own. With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, Sarah realized that she was not alone in the attic. The air grew thick with tension as she felt the presence of something sinister lurking just beyond the reach of her flashlight. And then she heard it. A soft whispering that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. Sarah's heart raced as she strained to make out the words, the voices growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. In a blind panic, Sarah stumbled backwards, her flashlight slipping from her grasp as she scrambled towards the attic door. But before she could reach safety, she felt a cold hand close around her ankle, its icy grip pulling her down into the darkness below. And as Sarah's screams echoed through the empty halls of Blackwood Manor, the whispers grew louder still, their chilling refrain haunting her to the very end of her days. For in the depths of the old mansion, the spirits of the past still lingered, their restless souls forever bound to the haunted halls of Blackwood Manor. And as the night closed in around them, they waited patiently for their next unsuspecting victim to wander into their grasp. In the heart of the city, nestled between towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, there stood an old apartment building. Its faded brick facade bore the scars of time, and its windows were clouded with years of neglect. But within its walls lay a secret that had remained hidden for decades. Emily, a young journalist with a penchant for uncovering mysteries, had always been drawn to the building's enigmatic presence. Despite the warnings from the locals about its dark past, she was determined to uncover the truth behind its abandoned halls. One rainy afternoon, armed with nothing but a notebook and a flashlight, Emily ventured inside the dilapidated building. The air was thick with dust and decay, and the sound of her footsteps echoed through the empty corridors as she made her way towards the upper floors. As she climbed the creaky staircase, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. But she pressed on, her curiosity driving her forward. At last, she reached the top floor, a forgotten realm shrouded in darkness. The hallway stretched out before her like a labyrinth, its doors sealed shut and its windows boarded up. But as Emily explored the desolate hallway, she noticed something peculiar. A door that stood slightly ajar, its hinges groaning with age. With a sense of trepidation, she pushed it open and stepped inside. What she found within took her breath away, a room frozen in time, untouched by the passage of years. The walls were lined with shelves filled with dusty books and faded photographs, and the air was heavy with the scent of mothballs and memories. As Emily sifted through the relics of the past, she stumbled upon a journal hidden beneath a stack of yellowed newspapers. With trembling hands, she opened it and began to read, the words on the page painting a portrait of a life long forgotten. The journal belonged to a woman named Evelyn, who had once called the apartment building home. In its pages, she chronicled the joys and sorrows of her youth, the dreams she had chased, and the love she had lost. But it was the final entry in the journal that sent shivers down Emily's spine. In it, Evelyn spoke of a dark secret that had haunted her for years, a secret that had driven her to the brink of madness. With each passing word, Emily felt the weight of the truth bearing down on her, a truth that had been buried within the walls of the forgotten room for far too long. And as she closed the journal and made her way back to the world outside, Emily couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden within the abandoned halls of the old apartment building. For in the heart of the city, amidst the chaos and clamor of everyday life, there were mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Mysteries that would forever change the course of history. But for now, the secrets of the forgotten room would remain just that, a secret known only to those brave enough to seek them out.